you'll get it sorted. I'm going to go on the side here, Alan, because I think Patricia will be wanting to get in on the frequency. How many miles to go, Alan, before you hit north? Okay, over 1,000 miles before you hit north. Okay, we'll be able to stand by. I think Patricia will be ready to start. So we'll catch you later. And we'll just call up maybe, I don't know, just going to look past 7 on Saturday up to Gold Harbour stop day.
I don't think he meant 1,000
No,
miles.
1,000 miles to his destination.
Yeah, okay. Actually, make it 7 o'clock. Make it 7 o'clock this time because you were better when I first started talking to you. Okay, very clear.
And before you go, hello, Alan. I'm glad I've handed you off to Trevor because I am not coughing you very well now. Trevor, I've got the position. Good morning to you and Jan. If you could give me the rest of it, over.
Okay, so the course is 070 degrees, through base speed 5 knots, you've got a north-west wind of 10 knots, a barometer of 1008, 35% cloud cover and a 1 metre nor'easterly swell. He's just started sailing again, and I think he got wind from all over the place during the night, not much of it, and he was motoring most of the night, but just started sailing again.
Oh, thank you very much. He's still done a couple of degrees in the right direction, so that's pretty good. Boy, you are booming, and I did not hear him at all at the start. I'm hoping he still hears us because David has a little bit for him. But good morning, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286, Patricia and David. Before we get going, just a little bit for Quintessa, who is at 152 West. Here's David.
Okay, Alan, if you could hear us. You've gone through what was left of a weather front, so your winds are going to continue to back by tomorrow at around lunchtime. I think you could expect southwest winds in the neighborhood of 15 knots, 15 knots. So that's your story for tomorrow lunch. Okay, Trev, you probably heard that. I'll give this back to Patricia, and good morning to you and Jan.
Okay, well, if you don't, I'm sure Trevor will pick you up later. Anyway, there's a fair bit of wind in other parts of the South Pacific, certainly not over there heading towards French Polynesia. A long way to go for Alan up to the Marquesas, 1,000 miles, but trucking along pretty well. And everybody else has got some pretty good winds. Obsession reporting southeast 20 to 25. And your report has come in today, Lisa and Lester. They are at 18, 1843 and 174. And even further south than that, there's some pretty good wind as well, down at 22 and 176 cables length. 2 report 14 at southeast, and Scoots at 23. 177 east have got about 16 southeast. So pretty good direction winds for you, and everyone seems to be trucking along quite well. Down at Falanga, it's pretty sporty, 15 to 20 south-southeast in the anchorage there, and Alcyon on their way to the top, reporting quite a bit of wind as well. So yeah, it's still blowing, and it will do for about 10 days, I'm told. I'm glad I won't be here to report on it. This morning in Warsaw, they reported it was going to go to 24 degrees today. So if I'm awake enough to enjoy it, I will enjoy it when I leave tomorrow night. Another adventure, Port Olry, still southeast 10 to 15, so nice and sheltered up there. And a few boats have left yesterday, going rather well, with a bit of engine on by the look of IALEA's report, and another couple of boats leaving today. So all is going quite well. Looking for the notes I did to tell you about the weather. I don't think there's too many people wanting to call in to us today. We'll see where Code Blue is shortly. Anyway, there's a bit of news. Well, Mr. Trump always keeps us full of news. He had a bit of a win yesterday. The Supreme Court approved 5-4 his travel ban on people from suspected countries. These are countries that they just can't trust the checking procedure for visas. They include, and I hope these are not one of you guys, Syria, Iran, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, Venezuela, North Korea. So if you're from one of those countries, forget about going to the United States. Just enjoy the South Pacific. He actually also had a bit of a win yesterday, not on his Republican Party, but a 28-year-old Latina Democratic Socialist, she calls herself, in the New York congressional area district. She ousted a 10-term congressman. He was the fourth-rating Democrat in the House, and he outspent her 10-1, but she still managed to relate to the people that probably hadn't voted too much before, and she outed him. So there you go. It's a different use of the word outed, isn't it? All right. There was an interesting article on the CNN site about corals in the Middle East that have adapted to hotter water. And this is not just a recent event. This is since the last ice age. There are corals there that really couldn't care less what the water temperature was. So they're studying those in the event of global warming and the water's rising. And they have not got any bleaching of coral, not a bleached coral in the Middle East. I can't tell you that for sure because I've never dove in the Middle East, but according to this report, there is no bleached coral in the Middle East because they have adapted to hotter water and a different pH due to what happened after the last ice age. I tell you what, we've got a bit of an ice age here at the moment. The desert road is still closed. The country, because of this high and the relatively clear skies, we've got, did I tell you what it was this morning? Well, actually, it's about 60% cloud cover, 12 degrees, 1023.9, slightly rising, and a couple of knots from the southwest. But it has been really cold. Auckland yesterday in the city went down to minus 2.3, and that is the coldest bar one in the last little ice age in Auckland. I think it was in the 60s. It got lower, but that is really, really cold. And it generated our highest use of electricity. All the talk shows are talking about the incredible cost of electricity in New Zealand, and it is expensive considering that we have a lot of natural thermal in the middle of the island. We have all these dams and water usage for electricity generation in the South Island. It's unbelievably expensive. David spent hours yesterday comparing it with his old home in Novato, California, and it's very expensive electricity here. You wouldn't believe what we're spending, over $350 a month at the moment, and the entire country, particularly Aucklanders, are getting really ripped off. So there's a lot of discussion on the talkback shows. That and the fact that yesterday morning we had our worst road crash for I don't know how many years, 60 years. 6 people dead up in Waverley, just a simple head-on between 2 vehicles crammed with people, so that wasn't very good.
Black ice.
Well, it didn't look like ice, but they haven't made any comments yet. Did they report black ice? Alrighty, but it was not early in the morning, but still must have been fairly icy roads. A car, 4 elderly people just went head into, I don't know who went head into, but a father bringing his newborn and wife back from the hospital with their daughter, and just a horrible, horrible smash. Better news, Mr. Putin and Mr. Trump are going to have a summit. So this is probably going to be in July before the NATO conference, so that will give us all something to read up about. I will actually be there in Russia when that happens, so maybe they'll ask for my opinion. All right, now, anybody wanting to talk to Gold Powder Radio, please call in now. All I've got is a bit of a whistle, so nothing much heard here. Just looking through. I wouldn't mind hearing from Ocean Fever, Barney, to let me know that you arrived safely in Nui Tuputapu. We've got various other things going on the YIT site, so let me know, please, that you have arrived, and anybody else, any questions? I think that was gracious lady. But if it's not, please go ahead, whoever it was, and I'm going to have to ask for a relay this morning. Conditions aren't all that great. Well, there's nothing much heard here. Can I have a relay, please?
No problem. He was
making reference to something that we said yesterday, Ron, or coming up Wednesday. Can you work it out?
Lady, I double put you. Could you repeat to me, please? Like the copy. So interested to know if the wind is going to drop for the next few days. That has 30 to 35 knots.
Okay, well, I tell you what, they'll that 30 to 35 knots can be well matched by quite a few people, I would think. You guys are on the outskirts of, oh no, it's probably not just the fact that you're on the outskirts. I'll pass the microphone, but I can tell you now that I don't think he's going to give you much hope for anything too much less. Oh, he'll talk about the weather when he gets to it, just in a few minutes. But yes, it's going to be windy for pretty much everybody. We had an email from Saguaro. iCandy is enjoying Saguaro just as well. They're enjoying it because it's going to be pretty wet, and, well, not wet, but certainly windy. Actually, it can get pretty wet in Saguaro. I can remember one time sitting there, we actually filled the dinghy. We're all quite excited because when you get to Saguaro, you sort of, could do with a bit of laundry stuff. So we all had soapy suds in the dinghy for the next day when it calm down again. But like a lot of places that have got coral, folk, you do have to watch yourself in those sorts of conditions. In a place like Saguaro, it can get a little bit crowded, and some people, their chain wraps around bommies, so what you thought was 4 to 1 is now about 1.5 to 1, if that, and sometimes people are using rope, which chafes through. There have been some real big problems in Saguaro in particular, because it chafes through, and then you've got a night full of wandering around the anchorage trying to keep away from other boats. And it's not just Saguaro that can happen. If your boats are still cluttered together on rallies, then you have these strong wind conditions and really gusty directional problems. You really do need some space around you, and it's just not a good thing to be anchored too close to each other. So keep that in mind while you've got this next week or so of very strong trades and a bit of convection. It's just not a good idea to be too close to things that are hard.
I will say something.
Okay, I'm going to pass the microphone because it's getting near weather time anyway, and David will probably want to make a comment on that situation anyway. Here he is.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and I am hoping that you're going to remember what happens when we have big highs, that the central pressure being up there in the 1030, 1034 area, you are going to have trade wind surges whenever the high gets up around 1030. And the rule of thumb that we've always used, and it's, believe it or not, it's pretty accurate, is the last two numbers of the barometric pressure. If it's a 1030, we're looking at 30. That's about what your mean wind is going to be at the periphery of these highs. And that's just the mean wind. You're going to have gusts that are stronger than that. So when you are looking at your grids and so forth, you want to pull down synoptic charts from like New Zealand or something like that and take a look at the true picture and see where that high is and see what the central pressure is. And right now we do have a very strong high that's in the Tasman. So I might as well get right into it. Oh, and the Saguaro thing, or Suvarov, depending upon how you want to pronounce it, We have been there, and we have seen exactly what Patricia is talking about. One of the things that happens there is that when you have a trough that goes through, you can get wind coming down from almost any direction. That'll turn the boat, and the boat will turn, and as she said, the chain will wrap around the bommy, and before you know it, you don't have any scope at all. The chain's hanging straight up and down. And then the next time a wave hits the boat and it lifts, it snaps the chain, and you're adrift. And we have seen this. So be very, very careful when you're in Saguaro if there is bad weather coming. That's all I can say. All right, our 500 trough axis is now pretty much up to 170 west. It's moved east to 170 west. And the 500 ridge, that broadens considerably over the Tasman, and it now is encompassing New Zealand, and this is good news. And good news in the sense that it's going to provide very nice direction winds and winds strong enough to get you smartly up to the islands. But it also means it's going to be windy up in the islands. Now, looking at Sunday, just jumping ahead considerably, Sunday 1 July, I'm looking at the 500 millibar Prague, and I find zonal flow in the Tasman. That means flow that's going west to east. And our 500 ridge will have moved then to roughly just south of Tonga. That's where the axis is located, south of Tonga. Now, all that is very, very good news for those of you on passage, those of you that are leaving today. I wouldn't want to think about leaving much later than today. By lunch today, our Tasman High, surface high now, is centered halfway between New Zealand and Oz, Australia. By Saturday, the 30th of June, the high center is going to be pretty much over the North Island, and it will be getting stronger. 1034 millibar central pressure, 1034. What are the last two numbers? 34. Well, guess what's going to happen up there in the islands? Okay, the pressures then are projected to be around 1018. I was looking at some of the progs for the synoptic charts up in the island area. So roughly 1018 is going to be an average up there at the islands. Well, that is a 16 millibar gradient. So winds are going to be definitely strong when that occurs. That's a pretty big gradient. Now, looking at tomorrow, Friday, at 25 south, and most of you will have passed 25 south. Some of you will just be approaching it, but expect east-southeast to southeast winds depending upon your destination, and it looks like around 15 knots, give or take. At 20 south on Saturday, the winds start to pick up. You'll start to feel the wind now because you're getting toward the periphery of the high pressure system. Tonga Tapu, as an example, we'll be looking at 20 knots out of the southeast, 20 knots plus. Near Kendavu, 20 to 25 knots easily. And Anisham, east-southeast, 20 knots plus. New Caledonia, easterlies, 20 knots plus. So, the late starters should have favorable winds, I think, right through the 4th of July to get up to the islands. Although New Caledonia is going to see a fair amount of convective activity right about that time, the wind direction is actually pretty good to slide into New Cal then. Now, at that time, a new high is entering the Tasman. Now, this one is milder. It's a 1025, projected to be a 1025. Now, this is a fairly broad feature, and it will, believe it or not, provide fine passage winds right through, I think, the 5th, 6th of July, maybe even a day or so after that. So that's amazing. This is the longest passage window that we have seen this season. So I hope you all will take advantage of it or have taken advantage of it. Don't be too late. As we're going to be gone in July, as you know, and quite frankly, we feel pretty good about knowing that we've got most of our flock, as we call it, of rather anxious cruisers up there in the tropics. So that's well done, everybody. Recognize a window and be ready and take advantage of it and go. That's Very, very, very good. Okay, now on the 5th of July, looking quite forward again, I see a lot of convective activity north of the island groups, and they'll be running from the Solomons eastward. There's a lot of activity. Fiji and Tonga may be involved in the periphery of some of these clouds as well, but winds approaching the islands look to be mostly southeasterlies, which is a perfect direction for making landfall. Okay, up in the islands now, up in the tropics, I always see two troughs that are pretty obvious on satellite imagery. The main one runs from the Solomons to Rotuma, and then it goes into Tonga and southeastward from there. Cloud showers, I think, affect Fiji as well from this. It's fairly broad, this trough, so a lot of cloud meandering about on the fringes of the axis here. Now, the other trough runs right through Tokelau, and it goes down toward the southern coast, in fact, over the southern coast. There is a lot of convective activity that runs west-east about 10 south, all the way past Samoa, actually. These are mesoscale convective systems. They're everywhere up there. A very good place to avoid if those of you are thinking about going north at this time. These are clusters of thunderstorms, and they are going to provide some pretty heavy wind. Not nice, not to mention lightning, which is not a fun thing to have around you. Okay, we'll start with Tonga now. Quite a bit of rain-bearing cloud is evident on imagery. A heavy band just went over Tonga Tapu at 5:30 this morning. I saw that on the loop. Otherwise, the trough is pretty weak, but it is pervasive, so expect cloud and occasional showers for the group. And being slow-moving, cloud and showers will probably stick around tomorrow as well. I'll give you a little bit of tidal data that I picked up. High tide, 7:30 this morning, right about now. Low tide, 2 this afternoon, 1400 hours. Barometric pressures are as follows, and this is at 5 o'clock this morning. Tonga Tapu, 1017. The Hapai is 1015. And Babao, also 1015. Now, by lunch, regarding winds, southeast winds about 15 to 20, a bit stronger as dinner time approaches. Saturday, we're looking at southeast 20 to 25. And on Sunday, stronger yet. We're looking at 25 to 30. Remember the strong high for the south. Fiji is a cloudy piece of paradise today, as our old weak trough has maintained remnants pretty much over the group. So thanks to the strong Tasman high, Fiji continues with their strong wind warning for all Fiji waters, all waters. Expect southeast 20 to 25 knots for most of the areas. Now, except for the wind shadow spots, you know where they are. The seas will be rough to very rough. Again, this will be on top of a moderate southerly swell, so not very pleasant out in the open water. Now, tomorrow looks like a repeat of today. Nandi radar is still non-operational. The others are supposedly functioning. I see returns over the eastern parts of Viti Levu, the southern parts as well, the eastern and southern parts of Viti Levu, definite rain showers, and the western Toro Sea as well, and not much else from what I could see. Okay, moving to Vanuatu, shows plentiful cloud over the Torres and the Banks area, a lot of wind. Northern waters southeast 25 to 30. Seas are up. The projection is 3.5 meters up there. That's pretty nasty. Central waters southeast 25 to 30. The seas also 3.5 meters projection. That's very rough, folks. Southern waters southeast 20 to 25, a little bit lighter as we go down to the south, and seas about 2.5 meters. And light showers have been reported in the south as well. And I would expect much the same tomorrow. And lastly, New Caledonia shows plenty of cloud as well. I would expect east-southeast 15 to 20 for the southern lagoon. After lunch, the winds are fairly consistent near the 20-knot range. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, east-southeast 15 to 20, but favoring the high end of the range. So we're in the 20-knot area for Newcastle Lagoon. And that's all I've got. One comment came in on some people that are taking note of satellite imagery. They're looking at the GOES, which is the satellite that is in basically fixed Earth orbit. So it's way, way up there, and you're not going to get as much detail as you get with the satellites that I use, like the Himmerary. These are all low-pass satellites. Anyhow, they see a band of cloud that's traveling west to east. It goes over New Caledonia, pretty much over their position, and they're near that area and wondering what that is. I will look further into that for you, but from what I can see now, I would say it's probably the cause of, well, two things. One would be the jet stream runs right exactly over that spot. And also we've got zonal flow at 500 millibar that's running over that spot. At 500 millibar, we're looking at 50, 60 knots. And up in the jet area, we're 120 to 150. And that's causing a lot of turbulence. And so what happens is you get a mixing. The lower altitude mixes up with the higher altitude and cloud forms. And that's pretty common, let's put it that way, when you have these kind of conditions. But I'm going to check that for sure. One of the things you want to take a close look at, see if there's any transverse bands in those clouds. In other words, sort of like ocean rollers that are running along with the cloud band. That's another indication of wind shear, which is wind that is stronger at one altitude versus wind that's at a different altitude. So that's it for me. Any questions or comments? If I missed what you want to know, come now. There's the chief.
Oh, we've got quite a bit of whistle on the radio. Oh, I know what I forgot to do is turn the towel rack off. Anyway, this is Gulf Harbour Radio. If you want anything in particular from your area, please call. You folk on Passage seem to be going particularly well, so probably won't be hearing from you. And Serrani up there in the top of New Caledonia have got it pretty calm now, so they're a little bit happier than yesterday. They might get off the boat. Not very warm, 17 degrees up there, so it's not exactly tropical, although certainly better than here. All right, any questions, comments, or whatever? We've got a comment from Alcyon, not the European Alcyon. They stopped at Delconi in Vanua-Balavu yesterday. There are no fees, they report, in Delconi, but certainly a donation is appreciated. It's pretty wild and woolly where they are at anchor at the moment, which is 4 miles northwest of Delconi with that strong winds. All right, anybody with anything? Good morning, Bill. Go ahead. Just make sure I've got the position right, because that's not in my system. 1734 and 17850 east. Okay, 40.5, got that. All right, so you've got certainly plenty of wind to help you along, over. Yeah, Shay's putting the mainsail up anyway. Alrighty, a head sail day for Liberation. Got that, thank you, and you'll be in the system. Alright, is there anybody else? Nothing heard? Alright, we'll leave you be, folks. Actually, I reported more cloud than we've actually got. It's only about 60% cloud, but it's kind of, not very orderly, so it's going to be one of those days today. What, sorry?
It depends where you look.
Oh, it depends where you look, says David. Yeah, that is always a difficult problem when there's not something that's organised. All right, our last day for a month will be tomorrow, folks, because I fly out later in the day. So we'll be on again in the morning. So if you've got anything, after that it will be emailed to ghradio@extra.co.nz, and extra is just X-ray Tango Romeo Alpha. There is no E. Stupid address, but anyway, that's what it is. If you've got anything related to the YIT site, just send it directly to mike@yit.nz, mike@yit.nz for anything related to reporting. If you've got any hassles there, make sure you check that your report has come in in a format that the computer will understand. That's always a little bit of a problem sometimes when you're tired and the boat is swinging around. So that's the two addresses that you'll need to know for a month, and otherwise enjoy it. We'll be back again tomorrow morning. Cheers, everybody. The frequency's all yours. Thanks, Dan.